Alright, so here we are in a slightly different setting. I've never seen this part of my apartment. This is my plant. See my plant? It's a healthy plant. Anyway, today what we're going to do, slowly and steadily, I have been changing the harness on some of my most of my historics. People want to know why. Well, there's not an exact reason why, but I'll give you as an example. First off, I'm a very neat person. I like things perfect, so to speak. I'm what they used to call an anal retentive asshole on on the forum, right? Vintage anal retentive asshole. That's what I am. But anyway, the pots in some of my historics are older versions of RS's pots. RS has, well, they used to have two levels of pots that you could be able to get, and they were the standard pots and their super pots. Super pots are 500 plus ohms, 500k plus, and the regular pots were like almost 5. They were like 400 something. So I forgot basically what I had in some of the guitars, and one day I pulled one out and I said, what the fuck? And I measured it on my multimeter, this is a multimeter. You use this to test the resistance of pots. It's very good to have. I'll show you how to do that in a little bit. So this is an example of one of the old harnesses I had in one of the guitars. As you can see, that is just, oh, it irks the shit out of me. You know what I mean? I can't have this. I can't. This is like, I solder so much better than this shit. So that's why I'm basically taking them out. And you know, you could clean it up, but fuck it, just start over. You know what I mean? That's how I look at it. And plus, anyway, I measured these pots that I have, and these are not, they're not 500. They're 4 something. So out they go. The caps, these are good caps. These are RS's old oil and paper caps that they had. I'm not going to use these today. You can, they're good. They're not bad. Here's what an older harness looks like on a plate. They have these plates that are made up, right? Which makes it very convenient to put your pots in, and you know, volume, tones, neck, bridge, what you sort of thing. You could just work on it on this thing, nice and neat, you know, and then just take them out with the washers and then put them right in the guitar. And you're done. All you gotta do is wire up the switch and the pickups. This is just an example of what I'll be using today. And here's another example. Is a good example right here. You see how these are brass and these are not. These are RS's old audio taper pots, CTS pots, and these are their older version of their super pots. They're both CTS audio taper pots. I'll explain that in a second. But this was a harness that was made up of both. The volume pots would be the better value pot, or the higher value pot, and the tone pots you would normally have a lower value pot. It doesn't really matter. You can have whatever, but the volume ones matter. So you usually would put the highest volume ones in the volume section. So this is going to be an interesting video. I'm going to try not to make this too boring because I'll be soldering. So I'll be like pausing and stuff like that. And we'll see how it works. Try to get a good angle. It's not too noisy on my street today. So I do have the window open because it's a little bit warm today, which is great. Let's start off. The caps that we'll be using today are RS's Jensen's. I like these caps. Okay, see if that comes in really nice and blurry. I like these caps. I've used these caps a lot when they first came out. Why is this blurry? There we go. You know what you know. They're your standard 22 value, the regular 22 value little guys. So these are the last two I have. They're oil and paper. And I just like these. They're cool. You know, they're little barrels and shit like that. They're cool, right? I used to have a whole bunch of these, but I've used them. They're in most of my guitars, are these. The Lux Capacitors I put in 23, and I'm going to get another set for the Richmond. Not just yet, but I'm going to get another set. So Kim, I'm going to order another set of those Lux to put them on the side for me. Don't be, because if I come there and I come to the website, you tell me, oh, I got no more, I'm coming down to Florida. We're going to talk. Anyway, so I'm going to use these. I got a new set of RS pots. They're all their super pots. They're on a nice, I have a whole bunch of these forms. I have like 1,000 of these. So I measured these already, but I'm going to show you how to measure them. They are audio taper, which means that if you go from 0 to 10, you have a steadily audible taper. It sounds like it's going from 0 to 10. It doesn't jump. Like from 0 to 5, it's one thing, and then 5, it jumps. Those are the old linear taper pieces of shit. These are very good pots. Now, again, you don't have to use RS. Today, you have a lot more options out there. Years ago, like in the early 2000s, there weren't that many people, doing this. RS was one of the people who started doing this, making upgrade harnesses for historics, because historics had historically crappy electronics in them for years. So, this is what they did. Today, the pots in there today, 2022, they're not bad. They're really not bad. I still remove them, but they're not bad. They're much better than they were, because they listened. You bust their chops enough, they listen to you. Okay, so the RS super pots we're going to use, I already measured them out, but I'm going to show you how to measure them just to show you, those who don't know, 90% of you probably already know. And then we'll wire this stuff up. I also got RS sells this little job. He's about $1. You don't really need to buy it from them, but I like it. It's neat and clean. It's a grounding wire. It goes from each pot. Now, also RS and a whole bunch of other people, you can buy these harnesses already made. You don't have to do what I'm doing. I just do it, it's cheaper. I know how to do it, so I don't need them to do it for me. I know how to do it, so I just buy the parts and I put it together myself. And bear in mind, I'm not a fucking electronics engineer here. I put together guitar harnesses for a long time, for many years, over 20 years. I put together, so I could solder switches and all that kind of shit. I understand how all that works. And I did build 2 clones. That was the extent of my electronics wizardry. That was fun. And I suggest anybody who likes to screw around with this, build yourself a pedal. It's really cool. So, my explanations are not going to be dead set in electronical scientific terms. Bear that in mind. But the principle's still the same. Alright. First off, when you get your kit, you get your pots, I like to measure them first. It's not that I don't trust Roy, but from RS, they do that for you. I do it anyway. Okay? So then I'm going to show you how to measure them with the potentmeter. Alright, so what you want to do, get yourself a standard potentmeter. You turn it up until you get to 2 million, 2M. That way you have plenty of, and make sure it's on ohms. Okay? One side is positive, one side is negative. Pretty much it says on the thing. And you put it down, and you basically put it on the 2 outer rungs, or lugs. See, I tell you it's not going to be correct. Let's see if I can get this so that I can show you the thing. You also have to make sure that the pot is turned all the way to 10 when you do this. As you can see, there's the reading. I'm pretty sure you can see that. That's the reading. And the reading will, you gotta make sure the 2 things are in sync there. But there's your reading. And so I do this for each pot, so that I know where it is and what I want and how I want it to go. Soldering iron. Standard soldering iron. Nothing crazy. I have this kind of tip on it. It's not a bad tip, but I like the angle of it. It's good for the getting into larger, because we're dealing with larger electronics, so you don't really need a really fine tip. I bought this when I made the 2 clones. It worked great. This is my new soldering iron. It's my new baby. I love this one. So let's start out. Turn that sucker on. Be very, very careful. Be very, very fucking careful. This is hot. This is... Yeah, see? 700 fucking degrees. I have burned myself many a times with a soldering iron. And, you know, you got a little thing here. And this is important with a soldering iron. This is wet. You want to clean your soldering iron. Go like this. It cleans it off. It cleans all the schmutz off. It's very important. Put your soldering iron in your little harnessy thing there. And let's begin. I have this resin core solder. I've had this for like 900 years. It's standard. Works really well. It's good. Can't complain. Turn the fan on. Always turn the fan on. I seem to have unplugged the damn fan, but that's okay. Just replug it in. Why is it good to have a fan? Because this shit's toxic. You don't really want to breathe it in, so it's good to blow this shit the other way. So take this out. Just some you have to work with. First thing we're going to do, remember we're wiring this in 50s style. In the style of the 50s. How a burst would be. A burst would be soldered. Burst was soldered many different ways. There was no real one way, but there's one way in general that people agree on and call it the 50s thing, and that's the way it is. So we're going to do that. Now, first thing we have to do, to show you on an older one, is we have to solder the middle rung to the pot itself. That grounds it out. So we take the 2 pots, take the middle rung, and we bend it in. Now, there's a little indentation on the pots, so I like to try to bend it towards the side, or a side. Usually I bend it towards this side, so that, because it's just easier to solder it and make sure that it's connected and not fucked up. You don't want to get extra solder in here to fall inside the thing. You want to do a nice neat job. This lug doesn't get used. So it's always going to be the bottom rung that's going to be used, so that's why I bend it this way. Just so it's away further enough and not in a way, you know, not in a problem. So they get both bent because this is the tone pots. These are the tone pots. So they get bent away and they're going to get soldered. So we're going to take the soldering iron. Here we go. What I find the best way to do this, that I have done this, people are going to fucking critique me on my soldering technique, but this is my technique. And as I said, I'm not a fucking soldering genius, but this is where I like to work with it. You put a little on the tip, you get right in there, and you hold it to the top and the lug. You get a little bit more on there. And that's pretty much it. Give it a second to seize up. Make sure it's touching that top. See how it blows away? And that's pretty much it. Now you repeat the same thing. Let's see if I get a better angle. See? There you go. Repeat the same thing on the second pot. A little bit on the tip. No jokes here, a little bit on the tip. And we solder away. Just inspect your work, make sure it's completely touching and everybody's good. Don't touch it immediately, it gets hot. You know, just give it a few seconds. It'll go in a few seconds. And there you go. Those are the two tone pots. Okay. Now, the volume pots, it's the outer rung, outer lug that goes to the top of the pot. So the outer rung lug, we're going to bend in. I'm going to bend in. Doesn't take much to bend these. You know, it doesn't take much to break them either, so be careful. So out of here. Inspect the workio. Make sure she's nice and touching. If she's not, you know, zip a little in there. Perfect. The other one. Okay, good to go there, good to go there. You see, now that's the sides. They're nice and done, see? Okay. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to run the, let's put the caps in first. Now, these are big, right? So normally, I would have them like laying down like this, nice and neat in there. I could do that, but it gets in the way. So these I'm going to have to like put up and sitting up in the pot. Don't worry, you have plenty of room in the cavity. You really have plenty of room. It's not going to get in the way. So I've already bent these and got them all set to stick in the thing to make it much easier. I put them in this way because, again, because of the size of them, and you don't have much space here, which is why RS, you know, has like little ones, or the Lux Capacitors, they put them up here too, same kind of thing. Just don't have much space. I don't have tubing for this. You don't need it. It's nice to have it. I just don't have it for this. It's not going to cause a problem, so don't worry about it. But if you have it, put it on. A little tubing like these guys have here. See? But you don't need it. So, cap gets attached. This is the volume pot. Tap gets attached here, and then for the tone gets attached to this side. So we're going to take a cap. We're going to go in the loop here, and we're going to go in a loop here. We're going to do one first, and then the other next. We're going to take a little bit of this. I'm going to put the pot up. Now both sides are in. Once that gets dry, so to speak, do the other side. And then you could touch them up later, but you want to do the other side. Inspect your work, make sure there's nothing dripping, and that you have shiny solder joints. Shiny solder joints are happy solder joints. So we have this. You can, you know, move it a little bit here and there. Don't fuck with it too much because you'll break them. Just enough so that you can just manipulate if you need to later on. But that's one side. Next side. Clean your solder. Nice and clean. Nice and clean. Make sure you get the fucking camera in there. Put a little of this here. harness here. Okay. So we have the other side. You just want to make sure if you don't have tubing that nothing is touching. But you don't have to worry. Nothing's going to touch. They're cut down small enough so that they fit nice and snug in there, and nothing is touching. With the tubing, it's nice because that's what it's there for. But I don't have it, so sue me. Next up, we're going to do the grounding wire. Now I have an exorbitant amount of grounding wire that I don't really need all of this, but we're going to just do some. Now, in the old ways, I used to do it. I had this cloth wire, and I just would do this to this, this to this, and then that to that. This is much better. It's again, like I said, nice and neat, and you don't have to worry about nonsense. But give yourself a little bit of room, a wiggle room, when you're doing this. They have to go to each pot. So each pot gets attached to this, makes it a loop, which grounds each pot. So we'll start off with this one. Again, just take a little solder on your iron. And remember, there's going to be a ground wire here from the actual guitar. Because this is where the ground wire comes from the guitar. In from the guitar, it comes to here. So it's best to have them both attached. Just something that you can do. Give yourself a little bit of leeway, just in case you need it to move around the harness in there. You can always bend that up. It's not a big deal, but I give myself a little wiggle room for everything. Also, bear in mind when you do this, the wire gets very fucking hot, so I'm used to it, but you can burn your fucking fingers, so be very, ow, see, just like that. This to this side. Again, I'm leaving myself some wiggle room here, so you don't really have to worry about shit getting in the way. And the last bit goes here. Fucking hot. And the remaining stuff you just clip off. Let me go get my clippers. The remaining schmutz here you just cut off. Like that. And there you go. So the harness is complete. this is ready to be put in a guitar. I'm going to stop the video here, and then I'm going to start a new video about putting it in the guitar. Okay, so this is video 1. Alright, so video 2. Let me make video 2.